This is the Wealthy Investor Show, where we don't just talk about your wealth, we also talk about your holistic health. I'm your host, Matias.
And I'm Erica.
And this is the Wealthy Investor.
Well, unfortunately, it's just me today. So that is because Erica is in Kansas visiting her family, surprising her dad for his 60th birthday. So very important thing. Glad that she could be there. That means that I am the only person in this podcast. So sorry, those that are raving Erica fans, which I know are vastly outweigh the ones that are raving Matias fan, which is great. I'm not jealous at all. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the investment stuff we're doing right now, just to kind of key into what our world looks like on a day-to-day basis. So we have a property that we recently acquired that we are trying to do a BRRR method on it. That means that we bought it, we're going to rehab it, and then we're going to try to refinance the money out of it. Technically, in this case, we were probably getting financing prior to refinancing or prior to all the repairs being done, and we're going to use an after repair value appraisal. That would give you 80% of whatever they say the value will be after the repairs are done. So ideally, that means that we have no cash in the actual property at the end of the day and that it cash flows. So it's a really fun strategy if you can pull it off. I have successfully before, but I think this one is going to be a little bit harder with how the expensive interest rates are, but it's in a location that I want to keep long term. So I want to try to figure out how to make it work. Some of the ideas that I have had is furnishing it and putting it on furnished finders. In our town, we are not allowed to do Airbnbs. So doing something that it's at least a month-to-month rental could be an appealing option that would fulfill a need of somebody who needs more short-term housing that may not want to travel with their furniture. Traveling nurses is a very easy example of that, but there are other opportunities or other situations that this applies. And so that you are able to get a little bit more of rent for providing the furniture, for providing more flexible terms, because at the end of the day, you probably will have more vacancy in this kind of model. So we're going to experiment with that. We're going to see what that looks like in our town. We're not really sure if the market's strong enough to really make it work long-term. If we get a long-term renter through it, that's fine. We do not need our furniture. Then we can use that for staging in the future. So there's a few different options, but we're trying to get a little more creative with this one to make the numbers work because it's a property we want to hold long-term. It is a property that we could just sell, we get a profit on, but again, trying to find a way to keep it if at all possible. There's another property that we're working on that is a double wide in a town like 20 minutes away from us. And that one has been a complete mess from day one. We bought it for a very cheap price. It needed a lot of work, but it also came with a tenant that wasn't paying. So this tenant was going to own the property. I think it was a lease to own kind of scenario, but the tenant was also very paranoid. So I don't think they ever actually signed a formal document, was never able to produce a formal document that said that she owned it or anything like that. So we had to evict her basically because she wasn't paying rent, even though she was claiming that she owned it. But she had been making her payments. She did make some payments, so she did lose some money on it. Unfortunately for her, I think maybe there were some drugs involved potentially that maybe made her lose her job, or her money went to other places instead of paying her rent to own kind of situation. We took that house, that double wide, and we put it on a permanent foundation. We actually had to reframe a lot of it. So it was double wides don't have traditional 2x4 studs. And that's part of the reason they hang up that you can tell the type of material. I don't even know what it's called. That's lighter than drywall. So if you want to put drywall in a double wide, you're going to have to frame it. And so that's what we did. We basically rebuilt this house. It's got luxury vinyl plank on the floors. It's got granite countertops. It's got a white kitchen. Got a pretty open concept, and it's got 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths. Everything's new. It looks great. So I think it's going to be a really appealing property once we get out there. The one problem is there was never a title on this. And so to get this all sorted, we have to go to the DMV to file for lost title. Then once we get that lost title, we can relinquish the title because it's now on a permanent foundation and it's actually real estate, not just like a vehicle. So it's kind of silly that we have to go through these hoops just to relinquish it and make it real estate. So we're exploring how that looks. We're afraid that it's going to take a long time. So we think at the same time, this would be a perfect opportunity to do another lease to own option for somebody. So our target demographic, we're thinking is maybe somebody that started a business, for example. If they started a business and they don't have 2 years of taxable income or high enough taxable income to qualify for a loan, they could be a really great candidate for a lease to own option where they are making plenty of money now to afford it. They are they have everything in place that they'll be able to get a mortgage for it down the line. And that gives us time to get that title sorted as well while we're going through it. But we would want a down payment. So we're actually refinancing this double wide, getting as much money out of it as we can with the finance, because we want to be able to use that, recycle that money into something else, another project, another deal. And then we are going to try to get a down payment for a couple of reasons. One reason would be to get more cash, to reinvest, to reuse. But then also that the buyer has skin in the game. They need to have some skin in the game to we want them to take care of the property. We want them to treat it like it's theirs, and we want them to buy it. Then, okay. So we're exploring that option, and hopefully we'll have an update for that here soon. And in a personal life, since Erica's gone, I have all the kids, which is chaotic. But for some reason, I think we all get in the zone when this happens. When Erica leaves, we kind of like, all right, it's game time. We got to go. I actually downloaded Visual Timer for our Apple TV and played that on our TV this morning and last morning to, kind of cue them in how much time we have to get ready. And both yesterday morning and this morning, we were out the door before 8 o'clock, which like never happened when we're both home for some reason. So it's never as much fun alone, but manageable with 3 little kids. We did have a giant blowout. I haven't had a blowout to deal with for a long time, but I did have a giant blowout this morning to deal with, a wet bed last night. So good times at the Clymer household. Let's introduce the guest here. It's Lisa Moore. Lisa Moore's out of Salt Lake City. Lisa's into the multifamily space, primarily buying and holding, looking for the value add opportunities. Her and her husband are partners in these opportunities. And she's got a great perspective. She gives some really good advice if you're looking to get into this space, if you're looking to get into real estate at all, if you're looking to be just more passive and just take all advantages of being a real estate professional, taking advantage of the tax benefits that happen with that and being purely passive. We get into syndications a little bit, which is one of the ways you can, take advantage of all that and be purely passive. And talks a little bit about her routines and things that she does and her relationship dynamics, but she is awesome. So a great person to follow on Instagram and everything. But without further ado, listen to Lisa Moore on The Wealthy Investor. And welcome to The Wealthy Investor. We're here with Lisa Moore. Lisa, we have been connected through a network we're a part of with Brandon Turner, but we also met in person then at the Better Life conference in Denver. That was a lot of fun. Lisa, you want to tell us a little bit about who you are, what you all invest in, and your story getting to this point?
Yeah. So my quick backstory. So I grew up in Massachusetts. I moved to Salt Lake in 2016, and I'd always had an interest in real estate. And then when I moved to Salt Lake, I knew that I was going to want to buy a house. So I rented for a year, figured out where I wanted to live. But I also knew that I did not want to be house poor and I didn't want my expenses to change. So I decided to house hack, which back then I don't think even had the name house hack. And it was back when you actually were literally like renting out a bedroom in your house, or someone's on vacation and they're renting their entire house, not these like awesome experiences that it's like run into now. And then met my husband shortly after that. And we really started buying in 2020. And we focused on small to mid-size multifamily right now we're focusing just on Utah. We own in Colorado and in Raleigh. We're LPs on a syndication.
Okay.
But right now we're focusing just on the Utah market, and the 2 to 50 unit asset is what we're really looking for. Typically value add or distressed properties. My husband's a GC, so we like the problem child houses.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about this as well, but that's what we're getting into as well. We've done a number of flips and that kind of stuff. And just scaling that up, really. I mean, I know the problem becomes a lot more complex and there's more to it with leasing and other strategies when you get into the multifamily. But at the end of the day, you're creating value, right? You're increasing the value and taking advantage of that. I want to buy it and hold. So refinance out the cash that we put into it. Is that kind of the strategy you all are looking at as well? Buy and hold primarily?
Yep. Yeah. Buy and hold, long-term rentals. We've dabbled a little bit in the short-term rental, but yeah, the long-term rental, buy and hold is definitely what we like the most and what we focus on. So
Getting that long-term kind of passive income.
yes, if you buy something, we spend all this time rehabbing and fixing it up. The last thing I want to do is like then go and sell it when it's actually like cash flowing nicely and making money.
Right.
That's what we like.
Let me get into your why a little bit. I mean, what drives you all? Where are you all trying to head to? Do you have a clear path as to what you're aiming for?
Yeah, the freedom of time is like my biggest thing, and I think that's probably the same for a lot of people, but to not be tied to the 9 to 5. Um, I used to be a financial analyst and I never hated my job. I always enjoyed where I worked. I had awesome employees, awesome bosses. I wasn't I fortunately was not someone who was like absolutely miserable and hated their job, but I'd so much rather be doing what I'm doing now where I can dictate my schedule. If I don't work, work doesn't get done. If we don't buy stuff, we don't increase our cash flow. So I like the direct feedback of the harder we work, the more we get in return. And we don't have I'm also like, I don't care about a door count. I know a lot of people are like, I want to get to X amount of doors, but
Right.
you could own 1,000 doors that break even. Or I could own 100 doors that cash flow $500 each or $1,000 each. Like we're more on the financial goal and we're redoing our budget right now of what we want things to look like. But we look more at, okay, what do we financially want to get to?
Mhm.
And what do we need to really live the lifestyle we want? And that's what we're going towards. I've been doing more podcasts and doing some speaking and things like that. And I've really enjoyed that and the education side of things. So we'd love to get to a point financially to where we want and then be able to, we'll always buy and sell real estate. Like we love doing it,
Yeah.
but not have to do it as much as we are now and be able to do more speaking, do more education, potentially do like a coaching or mentorship program, something like that. I love helping people get involved in real estate. I think it's such a powerful thing. I'm going to be 40 this year. And I think my generation, I think it's going to be really hard for people to have an amazing retirement
Yeah.
based solely on what they've saved in their 401k. And I don't even factor in Social Security. That's not even anywhere on my budget of the future for retirement and what I'll have. Will we get some? Maybe, but I'm not even banking on it. And I think it's so important for people to invest outside of their 401k and invest in things like real estate to really build their wealth and make sure that they can have the retirement that they want.
And the beauty of it too is that you get to take advantage of the tax benefits as you go, and you get to take advantage of the cash flow as it goes, and you have control of it because you can sell it. You could do all sorts of different things as
Yep.
you go along instead of just hoping that the market goes up.
Yeah. And even if they just invest passively, you still get those benefits of the depreciation
Right.
and the increase in cash flow and things like that. So even if it's something that you're like, "Hey, I've dabbled in real estate, I hate it, or you have no desire, like you can still benefit from real estate without having to actively be investing. So
We'll talk about that a little bit. So you said passively. I'm assuming you mean like syndication, like being a limited partner. You want to give a pitch to that to anybody who may not be as familiar with it?
yeah, when you're buying these larger assets, and typically it's with larger assets, you're typically not going to syndicate like a duplex or a triplex. But when you're getting into the millions of dollars of purchase price, a lot of times people are syndicating those, meaning, so if I'm purchasing a property that's a $10 million property and I have to come up with $4 or $5 million between down payment and rehab and holding costs and all this, most of the time, a single person doesn't have two, three, $4, $5 million to invest.
Just
So
sit
they're going one day maybe. But basically, like, I would go out and find people that are looking to invest their money and get a return. So basically, syndication is when I'll take other people's money and they have nothing to do with the deal. They're just giving me their money passively, and I'm giving them a return on their money. So a lot of people will start to get confusion with like partnerships and syndications.
yeah.
But if you're partnering or JVing, then every person that you're dealing with, that your partner JVing with, is supposed to have an active role.
Yeah.
So even if you're doing like short-term money lending, technically, if that person is just giving you money and has nothing to do with the deal, that technically would be a syndication and have SEC rules, because anytime you're taking somebody's money and they have nothing to do with the deal, that's when those sort of the securities comes in, and you should be doing things properly with syndication, but most people don't. But
Syndications are a whole different world if you're trying to lead them. It's very complicated. There's a lot of rules like you're talking about with the
yeah,
securities. But as a limited partner, like you said, it's you're really passive, and that's the goals. If you usually are targeting people that are accredited investors, that means that their net worth is $1 million outside of their primary residency, or they make $300,000 as a couple, or $200,000 if you file individually for the past 2 years. But basically, the idea that the benefit is that, yeah, exactly, you're completely passive. If you trust the operator, you vet the operator, and you vet the deal, you look over the numbers, which they'll usually provide you some information about the project they're investing in. You can just invest your money and sit back and not have to answer calls from the tenants, not have to worry about fixing up the property. Usually there's some value add involved with those kind of deals. But yeah, it's a really awesome thing. And like you were hinting at before, is you get the tax benefits, right? Like you get to depreciate, you get a K1 for your taxes, and you get to depreciate that. And if you're a high income person, and again, I'm talking to a lot of realtors who don't even understand the position they're in being a real estate professional, they can get a lot better tax benefits for deals like this, even where they don't even have to worry about finding the deal. They don't have to worry about renting it, and somebody else can take care of it for them. So it's a truly an awesome win kind of scenario.
yeah, we do both. We're obviously active investors, but I also invest passively as an LP, because you
Yeah.
still we focus on the smaller ones, the 2 to 50 unit assets, and I invest Vina Jetty and Pace Orby are one of the people that we have money with right now. And I like the balance of the active and passive investing. So we do both sides of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in a mobile home park syndication as a limited partner right now. What about if there is somebody who's wanting to take a more of an active role in the investing world? What would you think? You mentioned house hacking earlier. That's certainly an option. What do you think if there was a person getting started, what would be some strategies that they could do to get their foot in the door, to build some equity, to all that?
I think the biggest thing is they have to figure out sort of what their goals are and what their time restrictions are, because I work with people. I have a couple examples. So I have one person that I work with that he loves his W-2. He's in the tech world. He does very well, and he wants to learn about real estate, but he doesn't want a second job right now.
Hmm.
So he's house hacking. So he's learning that side of thing, and he does want to invest with us. But he's someone where if you love your W-2, because your W-2 is very powerful. People underestimate, especially when it comes to financing, how essential a W-2 is if you're buying like less than four units and under. But he's someone that like he wants to learn, but he doesn't want to quit his W-2. And then I know people that they're doing everything they can to get out of their W-2 as fast as possible. So I think it's deciding, how active do you want to be? Because if you're someone that's like, I just want whatever can get me out of my W-2 as fast as possible, and you want super hands-on, none of these are easy, but like you couldn't get into flipping because that's going to be active income. You could do wholesaling. That's going to be active income. That's going to be quicker income. What we do, the buy and hold, tends to be a little longer till you start making money. And you're going to buy a duplex. You're probably not going to be replacing your income with one duplex.
Right.
So that can take longer to build up. We were crazy buying and rehabbing and doing huge value adds. So we have small properties that do very well. But I think a lot of people need to figure out what their goal is and how active they want to be. Because if it's a longer term game, then they can, like the other gentleman I was talking about, like he can buy like one or two small multifamilies a year and have them managed and slowly build up. Even if he buys one a year for the next like 5-6 years, he'll have 5-6 properties now
Yeah.
in that time frame. And he just wants to get to the point where by the time he's a certain age, like he had the option, okay, do I want to keep doing my job? Do I want to do contract work, or do I want to dive into real estate full time? So I think it's really deciding what your goals are and what you want. And I think so many people, if you follow one person, if you follow Vina Jetty, you're going to feel like you need to just do multifamily. If you follow Pace Morby, you're going to feel like I have to do single family and sub two and flipping. And if you
Right.
follow, there's all these people where if you follow one specific person, you're going to feel like that's what I have to do. But I think people should look at all the different options and go to local meetups and talk to the people that do all the different things and figure out what works for them and what their goals are, and then go that avenue. Because there's so many different ways. Like house hacking to me is the easiest. You need a place to live.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather own the place I live and rent out part of it. We had people be like, we've had friends that said, I would never rent my basement. I'm like, dude, you live in an apartment building with people above you, below you, and on both sides. And you have no control over that.
Right.
And you're looking down on me because I rent my basement. I'm like, that pays for 93% of my living expenses, and I choose who lives there.
Yeah.
So there's different ways to get into it, but I think it really depends on how much time you have, how much time you want to spend, and what your goals are in the next few years.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think it's probably often really easy to invest where you are as well. I think it's probably a harder first step to invest in other markets, typically also because you have to have a full down payment usually, instead of being able to buy the house hacking style where you can be 3% down or whatever
Yeah.
and live in it. I think part of that too is going to be like what if you're in a cash flow heavy market or if you're in a more of an appreciation market. What's that like in Seattle? Salt Lake City.
It's definitely more of an appreciation market, but we have done very well with getting cash flow as well, mostly because we are buying value add,
Yeah.
and we look at properties not just like we see how we can create value basically. So when we go to look at a property, we're looking, okay, can we add square footage? Can we finish a basement? Can we finish an attic? Is there one giant room that we could cut into two to make it another bedroom? So we're always looking to see how we can add value, which is why we have been able to, in an appreciation market, get very good cash flow. And we bought a triplex that was a legit meth lab and had a shooting outside of it.
Oh my gosh.
And it had already been cleaned with all the meth at that point. But that was a completely empty building that they had redone. One of my favorite parts about their remodel was when they're spraying the paint and they're going like on the backsplash area, they didn't tape anything off. So like which the counter had to be replaced anyways. I think they did it just for pictures, but like the counter had paint spray across it. The windows had paint. Like they literally didn't
Oh
tape
my gosh.
anything off. They just sprayed all the wall. But that was like a complete gut job in an empty property. And then we bought a fourplex that was also completely empty. We were buying properties that need a lot of work, and which has allowed us to get very good cash flow in a market that right now it's hard to find cash flow in Salt Lake. Like we're looking at a 16 unit that's going to cash flow less than our triplex.
Yeah.
But the long-term game on that will be very good, but it's a mind shift as well. It's, man, I'm going to buy a 16 unit that's going to cash flow less than what my triplex is. But that's the market right now, and there's things on that property that we're hoping to be able to do that will greatly increase cash flow if we end up getting it.
Yeah, that's the best kind of both worlds. If you can find ways to cash flow in an appreciation market, I think that's ideal. We're in a more of an appreciation market as well. And so for us in our story, we bought our house that we kept as a rental and moved. And that between the two properties, our first primary and our second primary, we were able to establish a good amount of equity that we were able to turn into equity lines and then start flipping houses and that kind of stuff with it. But that's definitely something to keep in mind as well. If you're starting out, if you're more in the cash flow kind of area, maybe you just want to build up that strong cash flow. And if you're house hacking, just move as soon as you can to the next one and just build up that base of cash flow. And if you're in an appreciation market, it might take a little bit more time to get that equity built up, but then there's an opportunity there. So there's really opportunities wherever you're at.
Yeah, and we house hacked a lot. Man, my first house, we still house hack. I think almost every property that we've owned, with the exception of the last two that we bought, we've house hacked. Sorry, there's three. It's three we haven't house hacked. But between the ones my husband had, he had three when I met him, and we've done 12 deals now. We've sold a few, but we've house hacked all of them except for We have one in Colorado that we haven't, and then we just bought a duplex and a fourplex. But all the other properties, like we were moving
Yeah.
every year and a half, but that's what we were willing to do. But that allowed us to buy properties with low money down and to keep growing as fast as we did. So to get financing at less than 3% with a low down payment. My first property was a first time home buyer and it was a few $1,000s out of pocket
Yeah.
because of the deals that they had with the mortgage, with the lenders at the time and in the first time home buyer programs. You can do it. I think house hacking right now, especially with the way things are. Most people I know that are looking to buy are looking to house hack. And I think that's huge as an agent.
Yeah.
If you understand that and you can help clients figure out what they need, I think there's so many benefits that agents should learn and have in their toolbox to help their clients. And I think house hacking is a big one.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right, and I think that there's a lot of it's almost two different worlds, the real estate sales world and the investment world, and so I think the education, even if you're just like trying to get better at your job and understand investing and not even I think you should invest in real estate yourself as well, but just understanding the two different you're absolutely right. Do you still own your first house that you house hacked?
No, so that one, so I bought that in 2017 for $207,000, which at the time when I was buying it, my husband was like, I just met him. We barely knew him. And I was under contract. And he's, man, this is really expensive for a house. And I was like, this is all that I can afford. I said, I don't need a big giant house. It's just me.
Yeah.
And 4 years later in mid 2021, we sold it for 450,000.
It's awesome.
And we did a new kitchen. We probably in the 4 years that I owned it, maybe 30 or 40,000 we put into it.
Okay.
And that was not, and it annoys me when, especially people in the Salt Lake market, when they're like, my net worth has tripled in the last few years. Not because of anything you did. Salt Lake was one of those markets that went crazy. So we did not, yes, we did do a new kitchen. We tore down a wall to open it up some, but we didn't do any like major thing to it that warranted
Yeah.
that doubling in price. We benefited solely from the crazy appreciation that Salt Lake had.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will try and be like, yeah, I did so good. And so did everyone in Salt Lake. Salt Lake went nuts.
Well, that's one of the things I say about real estate, though. It's like a tree. It's the best time to plant it, or the best time to buy it was like 10 years ago. So people complaining about interest rates now, true, it makes it a lot harder to make the deal work. But owning the property is huge. Like owning the property, continuing to buy property, that makes such a big difference. Because for example, in 2021, when interest rates were so low, one of my good friends, he had 20 refinances. And because he had 20 properties, if he had waited for that opportunity when the interest rates were that low to buy, he wouldn't have been able to. It was just an amazing, he made it all work, had 20 properties accumulated, then he was able to refinance like all of them. And now he has an amazing portfolio that cash flows super well. I don't think we're going to see that low of interest rate again, but there's just such benefits of owning real estate over time. It appreciates like
Yeah, and very,
things.
yeah, there's definitely situations where something could go bad, but
Sure.
and I think it's a rarity that is a situation. I think time can make almost any deal a good deal if you can hold it for long enough. No, I'm not talking if you buy a property that's losing a couple $1,000s a month. No, like
Right.
we do not buy anything that loses money. But if we were to buy something, stabilize it, and we're like, crap, we're only making a few $100s on it. But if we sell it, we're going to lose money. I would rather hold that property and break even, knowing that it might be 5, 10 years now before we can either make decent money on it or sell it and get our money back. But I know I'm not going to lose money on it. So I think time and market is so valuable, not timing the market. I know I've heard multiple people say that, and it's so true. Like, just get in and buy something, and obviously make sure it's a good deal and be smart about it. But in the interest rate, so many people think these interest rates are so high, and yes, they're higher than they've been, but they're still, you look at historically, they're average. They're not anything
Right.
crazy. And right now, like I said, there's a 12 unit and a 15 unit that I'm looking at, and we're potentially going to be like less than 7% for an interest rate. We're hoping somewhere in the low to mid sixes for commercial.
That's pretty good.
So They're definitely, to me, that's a very reasonable interest rate. A year ago, we were looking at a 30-something unit place, and the interest rate was going to be almost 10%.
Ouch.
And that just was like, yeah, that's not going to work. But to me, the interest rates now are not they never were a reason to sit on the sideline, because we have a fourplex that cash flows beautifully, and that's at 8.3 something percent.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think taking action is the biggest thing here. You just got to keep going. You had talked about your husband being a GC. You all have both been all in on the real estate world, right? You guys are both in it to win it. I talked a little bit about with you before, and that one of the dynamics that is true with me and Erica. She can't be here today, unfortunately. She's visiting her dad, who had his 60th birthday. She's surprising him for that. But anyway, one of the things that was interesting for us is that I was the one that was always reading about real estate. I was the one that was a realtor. I was the one that was active in this and pushing us to get into the space. We bought our first flip when she was about to have a baby, and she almost killed me. And so there's this dynamic that we have, and don't get me wrong, like we work through every deal now, and now I have a lot of trust that, like, if I get a text saying, hey, I have a house that you need to look at from a wholesaler or whatever, I'll drop everything, go see it, and write an offer. And I trust you, like, it's good. We've had to get to that space. Are there any interesting dynamics with you all both being all in it? Because that's different for me. I think everybody's different. There's a lot of couples that are both all in. Like, how does that dynamic play out for you all?
Yeah, it definitely can be interesting at times. And it's like any relationship, you're always going to have your points of contention on things. But the
Sure.
fact that we both have the same end goal ultimately does make it easier. But I definitely have a lot higher risk tolerance. I'm willing to take more risks on things. My husband's a little more on the conservative side, but he also, he, I call him like the MacGyver of houses. Like, this man, and this is one of the reasons that we have been able to find properties that cash flow so well, because we buy these older properties that most people don't want to touch, because there's so many unknowns with an older property, where he he just sees that and he's sweet, let's go. It's like a
Oh,
puzzle to him. And we've done very well with those. I want to get into larger ones. That doesn't really interest him. He loves the creative outlet of those smaller, and he loves to build stuff. Like, when I quit my W-2, it was December of 2021, and then the beginning of 22, pretty much the first like 8 months of 2022, we just like chilled, did a road trip for a couple months. But even when we like weren't working and just doing whatever we wanted, like almost every day he's in the garage building something. I'm like, what are you doing today? He just loves to work with his
yeah.
hands and build and create things. So that's like his outlet, and that's what he loves to do. So it's the balance of, we have X amount of capital, and how much do we spend on what I want to do, getting into the bigger stuff, and how much do we spend on the 2 to 4 units and those kind of just weird, quirky properties. We just looked at one up in Salmon, Idaho this week. And so it is a balance of which way do we go? And we don't look at it as one or the other. It's how do we make it work for
Yeah.
both of us? But we both know that on my side, like, he trusts and knows that I'm not going to get us into something that doesn't do well. Like, we're never going to buy something that doesn't cash flow. And I know for him, the way his brain works, like, he just gets this look in his eye with a property, and it's just like, you got that look, whatever. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know that it's going to work. But it definitely can get stressful, like, especially the fact that I'm willing to like take more risk when it comes to taking on more debt and
Hmm.
doing cash out refinances and taking on HELOCs and things like that. And those are, you talk to different investors, and some investors will say, never use a HELOC to buy stuff. We've used multiple,
Yeah.
but it's a risk that you have to know. Like, and this happened to us, like, our payment went from 5% to almost 11%.
Yeah.
So it's something that, like, you just have to know. We had the worst timing of getting a HELOC right before everything went crazy and it just went nuts. So it is a risk, and it is something that you do have to factor in. And are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with your payment could potentially double or triple if interest rates go crazy, like they perfectly did as soon as we got our HELOC? And then taking on cash out refinances, you're obviously taking on more debt
Right.
to potentially use that capital to go and buy something. Like, how confident are you that you're going to be able to find something that will cover? The way I look at it is that additional debt from the cash out or the HELOC and your debt from buying it. So I'm definitely someone that will take on more risk because I'm like, I know it's going to work out. I don't know how. I can't give you a roadmap. I said, but I know we're going to make it work and we're going to figure it out. So that's probably where we have the biggest difference is
Yeah.
our risk tolerances and how much we're willing to push and stick our necks out there.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it for us too. I definitely have the higher risk tolerance of the two. Yeah, but one of the things I think that was key that you talked about is you had the same end game. You have that same vision in mind. And I think that's probably maybe if anybody's having a hard time, if somebody's trying to break into this space and their spouse is feeling nervous about it or whatever, maybe like defining where you want to be, having that end game aligned could help you take that step. That could be a key piece.
Yeah, I think that's just important for like business and just in life in general. We read the book Vivid Vision, and for those that haven't read it, basically it's writing a very vivid vision, 4 or 5 page, very detailed description of whether it's your business, your life. And we did that business and personal. And I think it was a really good, I don't want to say exercise because we do try and look at that regularly, at least a couple times a year. Ours hasn't really changed much. We still have kind of that same life that we're working towards. But it really, as a couple, I think it's very good to each do it separately. And then
Okay.
when you bring it together, here's a vivid vision for like our personal life and then business if you're in business together. And it's interesting to see like the differences but it gives you like the talking points where it's okay, I'm working toward this, I want this and you want this, like where do we meet in the middle on it? And it just brings things to the surface that you can discuss and figure out and make sure
Yeah.
that you're both now on the same page, whether that's personally in your relationship and how you want to, we did it like how we want our life to look like in 5 years. What do we want our life to look like? And I think that was a really big help for us personally. And then doing it for our business as well. We know what we're working toward. And as soon as we get to that goal, then we know that we can sit back and be like, okay, here's our chill point. What's the next thing that we want to do? And go from there.
I love that. I think that doing it separately. So if, for example, if I'm the overachiever that's not always pushing and my wife is wanting to support me and doesn't want to stand in my way, wants to love me so I can be free, which she taught me, and it's an amazing concept. She could, and she doesn't. She always expresses what she wants to say or how she feels about things. But like she could at some point feel like maybe she doesn't have a say or doesn't have a voice, and because she doesn't want to hinder what I'm trying to do, in that kind of building our life together kind of thing. So I love that because I think that you can really intentionally both work towards fulfillment in your daily life.
Yeah.
Cool. Speaking of books, do you have a favorite book that you would recommend?
I read a lot. That's one small section of books. I like to switch between like business books and like mindset, personal development type books.
Sure.
For business books, so we're taking back our property management. We self-managed for my husband almost 20 years, me for about 7 years. And then last year we passed off to a property manager. That did not work out. So we're now taking it back in-house. Anyone that's looking to self-manage, Brandon Turner's book, I think it's called Managing Rental Properties. I should probably know. I literally
believe
just
so,
got
yeah.
through reading it. Is awesome. It's a really good book on just how to manage apartments, and not just apartments, but any rental property. And then I really liked the Vivid Vision. I thought that was very good for personal and business. And then the Miracle Morning was another one that the few takeaways from that I do now, like at night, I write down like what were 3 things I accomplished today and what are the 3 things I want to get done tomorrow. So I like ending my day with the positive, this is my
Mhm.
accomplishment. And when we first started out, like it can be hard to be like, hey, what did I accomplish today? Sometimes I wrote down one thing that I accomplished today. This was my
No.
accomplishment. I wrote down one thing. Like,
Oh,
and sometimes it can be really hard when you first start because it's like, what did I do? Like because I feel like a lot of us, we don't look at things as accomplishments. Like
right.
I called and got my refinance started. That's an accomplishment. But we just get this is business. That's not like that is just day-to-day business. But that's also an accomplishment. So it's just gotten me into a good routine of ending my day with 3 positive things and then setting me up for tomorrow where it's like I know when I wake up, like these are the 3 things that I have to accomplish. So that's been really helpful for me to get focused and be more productive on my day to day. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
love it.
there.
I've read 2 of the 3, so I'll have to read Vivid Vision. The rental book, Managing Rental Properties is really good, and he gives you forms as well that use as a template if you might want to check with your attorney to make sure that you can use it. But yeah, that was a really helpful book. I thought that was really good too.
Yeah, and the one other one that I've recently read was the Best Ever Apartment Syndication book by Joe
Mhm.
Fairless. That one, if anyone is even slightly interested in multifamily and syndication, that book was awesome. Joe Fairless is absolutely incredible. He's a super nice guy. I had the privilege of meeting him this year and spending quite a bit of time with him at the Best Ever conference.
Yeah, you were on
Um,
stage with him, weren't you?
yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And his book
It is
it's
good.
awesome. It is so good. It is the best ever.
It is a little
You
bit more
Mhm.
expensive, than some books, but it's definitely worth it. I just finished that not too long ago too, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
is really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you practice the miracle morning then? Do you keep that in the routine? I read that and I did for a while, but I think I fall off that bandwagon of doing everything every morning.
Yeah, I don't have a very specific morning routine. Like there's days that I get up. I'm someone where like I immediately get up and will either be getting like right to working out or right to work. I'm I don't need I think some people just need more of a routine to like
During time.
to build up to things where I get up and I'm like, let's freaking go. And so to me, like I have, like, routine mornings, but it's not sitting and, like, journaling and doing a specific routine every day. But I am getting up and going for a hike or going to the gym, or I'm getting up and getting to work and things like that. But I don't do a set routine every morning, but I do try and I have which I have fallen off of this, but I was doing really good with it for a while. But I do have, like, daily affirmations that I would read,
Oh yeah.
and that was probably the one thing that I do try and do consistently each morning because I did notice a difference
Yeah.
just, like, in mindset, in how I look at things, reading and it's 30 seconds of reading the daily affirmations, and I did notice a difference
It's like you're
in reading
brainwashing
those.
yourself
It is.
in the way you want to go. Like
Yeah. Your brain doesn't know the difference. You say something enough and you tell yourself something enough, your brain doesn't know the difference, and that's why so many athletes do visualization.
yeah.
It's a similar thing where you're sitting there and if you ever watch ski racing and the ski races are at the top and they're doing all these weird things, they're visualizing that course and they're visualizing them going down it and making every turn perfect. Because you do that enough, your body doesn't know, okay, did that actually happen or not? So in your mind, you've already run this course a million times and you've done it perfect.
Yeah.
And that's similar with the affirmations, reading the affirmations and taking 30 seconds to just like visualize what do we want our life to look like? What are we working toward? It's a 2 to 3 minute thing that really can change your mindset and really just help you focus in different ways and thing.
I liked his suggestion of laminating it and putting it in your shower so you can use that time to visualize and everything. I thought that was a pretty clever. Uh,
Yeah, I should do that.
it's a good time. Like, what else are you doing?
Yeah, that's one of my things is like, where can I put this? Because, like I said, like I put my alarm clock like across the room.
Yeah,
And so like I get up immediately, go turn my alarm off and immediately going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth and either hopping in the shower or like putting gym clothes on and going for the gym or hike or whatever. And I'm always like, shit, like where do I put this? So I remember to read
yeah,
this and I've tried different places and the shower, laminated put in the shower might be my next
yeah.
one that I do. I like that.
Tell me if you do that. And then I have a quick story about visualization too, that for the athletic side of things. So I was working really hard to get my first muscle up on the bar doing at the gym.
Those are hard.
And I ended up over like using part of my shoulder. And so I didn't know how to stretch. There's a lot of learning that I didn't have at that point. So I just didn't do that kind of motion for a while. Until I learned the right stretch to get past it. But anyway, long story short is in the meantime was watching tons of videos on Instagram and seeing people's suggestions of how to do muscle ups. And then I started visualizing myself like what I needed to do, which was really like I had to be more stiff. Like I had to have my hollow arc kind of position be a little bit more stiff than I was doing in the past. all that to say, when I finally figured out the stretch that I needed to do that cured my problem, I got on the bar and I felt like I rocketed up into the ceiling because it went so much easier. Even though it had been months of not exercising that at
Right.
all, not doing pull-ups, not doing anything that would strengthen myself. It was just visualizing and getting that mind body connection kind of thing squared away. I think one of the things that I love about CrossFit, one of the things I love about Brandon Turner's thing, and the vision, all this stuff that you are talking about, it's really engineering your life to be set yourself up to be where you want to be. You're putting yourself in a position, you're showing up, you're surrounding yourself with people that are in the same kind of space. That's going to create the life that you want. And just be intentional about how you live your life, because you can really get what you want out of it. You just have to show up. You have to surround yourself with the right people, and track it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that feel like they can't do this or they can't do that and play that sort of victim card or victim mentality. And we've had people in our life that always complained about a job or a partner or a family or this or that. And
Only this was different.
yeah, there's a different situation because it's like, we'll get a new job. Oh, I can't do that. We'll break up with your boyfriend. Oh, I can't do that. There's people that they don't want to help themselves and they don't want to do the work to get past what they may need to live a better life. And for me, I want to surround myself with people who are trying to make their life better, and not necessarily like in real estate. Like some of my best friends, they're not involved in real
Yeah.
estate, but they're still like awesome people and they're super supportive of what we do. And to me, it's just I love being around real estate people. Like that is definitely essential. And like a core group of our friends now are a lot of people we hang out with are in the real estate world. But I think even if there's some people that say never hang out with anyone that doesn't do real estate. That I don't agree with.
Yeah.
To
Same.
me, it's if there's people in your life that are helping you better your life, you're helping them better their life in whatever way that is. To me, it's just surrounding yourself with people who are like positive people that are looking to challenge each other, looking to improve. It's that mindset and that mentality where if you're always around people who are, I can't do this, I can't do that, you're going to be in that same mindset and it's just going to bring you down.
No, I completely agree. That's awesome. Do you have any other nuggets or tidbits that you want to share to anybody who's looking to get into this space?
Yeah, just get involved. Go to local meetups. I'm the VP of our Utah RIA, which the RIA is a Real Estate Investor Association. And the RIA it's a national organization, and then there's individual RIAs. Utah alone, I don't know why we have so many, but we have 4 all within a 1.5 hour space.
No.
I'd love to know how many other states have as many as we do, but most states and big cities have a RIA. But even if there isn't a RIA near you, there's more than likely a real estate meetup near you. And I think relationships are such a huge part of real estate and being in this world. Can you do it on your own to a certain point? You're not going to really get super successful doing it 100% on your own. Like you're going to need relationships, you're going to need people. And even if you're brand new and you have no idea like what you want to do or what avenue you want to go down, just go to the meetups, go and talk to people and be like, I am just getting started. I have no idea what I want to do. What do you do? What do you like about it? What is it that drives you to choose that area of real estate? And just start talking to people and start learning the different areas. And if you keep showing up and keep being present when it comes time that you have something that you want to do, like people will know you. And I don't know anyone that comes to our meetings that doesn't want to help somebody else.
Right.
So if you're showing up, and there's a couple of people I have in my mind that are like wanting to get started and they keep showing up, and I tell them like, dude, as soon as you have something you need help with anything, like you call me, because they're trying and they're continuously putting in that effort, where there's some people that we see rarely and then they want help or they
Right.
they're frustrated that nothing has happened yet. And it's, what have you been doing? Like consistent action to me is so important in building those relationships. But I don't know, I think people underestimate the power of just building relationships and being in the room with people doing what you want to do is huge.
You adapt, you start adapting or become the fish in the pond that you're in, like you growing into that position. That's huge. That's awesome. This has been a really great conversation.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much for being on today. Do you have anywhere that you want people to follow you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, you can go to my Instagram. It's More Doors with Lisa, Moore. I married into a good last name. I made for some fun company names. So More Doors with Lisa on Instagram. You can also go to our website, More Life Capital. We do have currently on there, we have a free handout on landlord tips, a few pages just on some of the tips and tricks that we've learned over the years. We're also working on getting up a couple other free resources, one on house hacking and one on underwriting. Yeah, check
Cool. I'll
those
definitely
out.
put them in the show notes as well, so that you can click on it.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Investor Podcast, where we talk about wealth and holistic health. If you enjoy our content, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to hear new episodes every Thursday. If you really like our content, you can follow us on social media at The Wealthy Investor, wealthy spelled W-E-L-T-H-Y.